to the Off Script podcast. For those of you that are watching, or those of you that can't see, I'm without my co-host and my partner, my beautiful fiance Ashley. Today, I have a special guest and an incredible agent, has a tremendous amount of influence here in the Omaha market. I'm going to go over a little bit of your accolades here to give some validity, but I don't think you need much of an intro. You've probably done a deal with a lot of agents that listen to us. 12 years of real estate experience, number 4 agent in Nebraska, number 2 agent in Omaha in both units and volume. This is one we both found out this morning. Nationally ranked in the top 200 realtors in the country. Wow. Out of 1.5 million, which you said you didn't know this morning.
Did not know. Very cool.
I think number 2 nationally with Better Homes and Gardens. And then in each of the last 2 years, served over 100 clients, sold over 100 houses in each of the last 2 years. And he's our first panelist at the Agent Advantage event that we're doing, which will be tomorrow once this comes out. And I think the coolest thing about you, as I get you this extended intro, is like how you do things. You're a competitor, you're a communicator, you're an educator at heart, but yet still a family man, a husband, a father. You focus on your exercise. So to be able to create this lifestyle in real estate is really cool to watch and inspiring. So welcome, Ben Smale.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here.
Tough to follow all those accolades, but I feel like there's probably a long list of things I probably could have said. But the one thing that being in the leadership world in Omaha and real estate here, I've never heard anything bad about you. Everybody says you do a great job, high integrity, high character. That's what makes me so excited to have you on the podcast, but also on the panel to kind of give back that kind of, we need more of that in our world, especially as a high performer. So thanks for taking time today.
Absolutely. No, I'm grateful for the chance. So Thanks for having me.
Of course. Cool. So I'm not going to be like our commercial for an agent kind of podcast where we talk about your story the entire time, although we probably could. You have a phenomenal story. I want to touch on it a little bit, but today we're going to talk about what's actually happening in the Omaha market and what kind of words are being used, what kind of, when we say skill sets, what kind of conversations are being had and changing in the market today. So give us a little bit of a start. How did you get into real estate? Why that high level kind of like journey up until today?
Sure. I hoped that I could find myself in a career in which I had more time and more resources to do good things for others. I know that sounds like that doesn't even make sense, but it made sense to me that I was a school teacher, but I desired more time and more resources to do good things for others. And in many jobs, those are limited, in which people tell you what you'll earn just by being there, and they'll tell you when you get to be there and when you get to go home, which works for a lot of people. But I had a desire to try to use my time more independently, to go sit at the hospital before surgeries, attend funerals, volunteer, watch the children of single parents when it's a snow day. You can't just take time away from your regular job to go do nice things for others.
Yep.
But in real estate, if I want to take an entire day off, give up any hope of making an income to go do something better with my time, usually for somebody else, then I can do that. And not every job, most jobs don't afford you that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's a very intentional decision to find myself in something where the resources coming in could be better if you did a good job. Yeah. There can be good months and bad months, but I hoped I could do a job well enough to mostly have good months and then be able to use my time to give it away as often as I could afford to.
That's awesome.
So real estate checks those boxes perfectly.
Yeah, which being around you, just the short amount of time that I had and had you on a panel in the past, that's how you operate. And so like when you're speaking this way, it is a lifestyle for you. So I imagine you just came in from the outside looking in. It was easy. You probably just sold 100 houses year one, simple, and we kept moving.
I don't classify real estate as hard. People say, boy, I think real estate's a hard thing to do. When you were a teenage coal miner and you carried railroad ties on your back for hours and hours, that's called hard. Real estate is frustrating, and I would say discouraging is probably the best early descriptor of real estate. Is it's just highly discouraging because you don't have the year you think you should have or could have or hope to have. You have a down year and a slower year than you want, and the opportunities you think you're going to get, you miss. One you think's in the bag goes with someone else. So it was certainly discouraging early on, and I always say I will never move to any community other than I'm staying in Omaha, because I don't want to go back and have a year one where no one knows me, no one knows my character, no one knows how I will treat you. I'm a stranger. And when you're new in real estate, even in your same community, people don't know if you're good at what you do, if they can trust you, if you're going to care about them. And so I'm not going back to year one anywhere, because it is a discouraging start.
Yeah, you got to have some grit.
or 17 cousins all waiting to buy their first home with you the moment you get your real estate license.
Yep.
And I didn't have 17 cousins waiting for me to get my real estate
So
license.
pro tip, make sure you check with your family before
All
you
of
start your
them,
classes,
yeah.
before
And
you even start.
I envy a few that early on with me, it seemed like, yeah, they just had family waiting in the wings. I'm like, how'd you bang out 6 sales immediately?
Yep.
And I fought tooth and nail for an entire year to barely get 6 sales. But I built it slowly and steadily, and then to a level there's a strong foundation there.
Yeah, and you've done it with a lot of intention, with your time and your activities and your marketing and everything that you do. It's funny because I had the same exact mindset when I came into real estate. I was in Southern California, didn't know a single person. So I was a door knocker, and they're like, "You work so hard." I was like, "I've been roofing houses since I was 8 years old in Nebraska. Getting told no in 72-degree weather is not that hard, honestly." But you're right. I think you verbalize that really well. It's discouraging, and it takes a different level of grit and like some sort of resilience, right? So as you've done that, I think the one thing that I've also taken from you is intentionality. We can talk about time all day. You did 119 units, served 119 families, which is a lot of conversation. What's your leverage look like in your business? Like, do you have a staff? Do you have operations? Just TC? Anything?
Right. In addition to that 119, that's an important stat. The other two I have to share because I think it speaks to what my life is actually made of other than just selling real estate.
Good.
I exercise 101 minutes daily. That was my average daily exercise minutes. Apple Watches are a little generous in what they call exercise, but comparing year to year, I can use the same metric. Exercising a ton, and I left the state of Nebraska 47 times last year. 47 different days. That doesn't include going to Husker games and things in York. I mean, there are other days dedicated to not doing real estate. But I don't know a lot of people who get to really on purpose take 47 days away and take care of their health and still help 119 clients.
Exactly.
So I'm proud of the client count, but if I was miserable doing it, I wouldn't be thankful for it like I am because the other things take place.
Which is the view of a lot of top agents, right? That do a lot of units, is that there's no way they're happy. There's no way they're
I always make sure I tell other realtors, and I'm really, really happy. You didn't ask if I'm miserable, but you probably thought I was. Let me just tell you, I'm really, really not. I actually have a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So that's important that people know. But when it comes to leverage, I do have an assistant who works for me, not quite full-time hours, but she's working 30 plus hours a week, roughly. She does do TC things. She does do some marketing things. She does a variety of tasks for me. But when it comes down to leverage, I don't know if I'd use the word system, even though it's whatever the word means, it means the same, a process.
Yeah.
Not a system, but a process. And that's, how do I take a person who might be a buyer and take them to fruition to become a qualified buyer, or a seller from, I could sell my house, I don't really know, to how do they become a really high quality seller? So I have a process. So if someone says to me, in a running club, totally randomly, "Hey Ben, I heard you're a realtor. I don't know if I kind of want to buy a house." All I only have to know is you thought about buying a home, and I know exactly what to ask and how you're going to answer my question and what the next question's supposed to be, and how that leads to me telling them about the value of, let's find some time to sit at my office and what we're going to cover in that hour. And in that hour, the expectations I'm setting, and I can move a person from I might buy to I'm a ready, willing, and able buyer, and I'm going to do this really, really well. Or a seller who says, I might sell my house to, I want to do it, I want to do it well, there's a process to do it, I want to be reasonable in my expectations. I couldn't do this 119 times if it took a great amount of convincing or hours and hours and hours of spinning my wheels, hoping a person finally figures out how to be a good buyer. The thing I really don't like when I hear agents say, it makes me sad. They'll tell me about hours spent with a buyer and 10 showings, we wrote an offer, it was lousy, and we did it again, and this is our 4th time doing it, and then they say the most sad words. Eventually, I think they're going to learn. And I say, yeah, but you just spent 200 hours to get them to finally trust you and be serious about buying a house. What if you could do that whole thing in 90 minutes? What took you 200 took me 90. On my time, in my nice office, with nice people. So I'm taking 90 minutes, you're taking 200 hours. I could not sell 119 homes and exercise and travel and do the other important things and spend time with family if every person required 200 practice hours.
It's impossible.
On a 201st hour, now I have a buyer I can help buy a house. And so I have a process in which I'm moving people from what they, I have this desire to how do you do that really, really well.
So in that it's almost like your consultation or your expectation setting.
Mm-hmm.
Are you kind of filtering during that to say, are you ready? And maybe now's not the right time. Or are you kind of like you just said, what an interesting thought process, teaching them how to be a good buyer or teaching them how to be a prepared seller.
Thankfully, most people are referrals. They come from friends, acquaintances. So most are coming fairly qualified to buy a home, but they don't know what it's going to take.
Yep.
But there are times we just say there are these costs involved that were a major surprise to you, and so that may determine that they're not ready to be a
Sure.
buyer. One thing I've said many times over and over, where people who've heard me speak say, "Yeah, I've heard that one before." It's advice given when there's nothing to gain and nothing to lose is just called information, and that's the best time to share it.
Okay.
I'll go back to 5 years ago when home inspections were being eliminated from so many transactions because of the competition. The best time to tell a person that that's a reality they might face is when you're sitting in your office 60 days before you're ever even going to look at a house. That's just called information.
Yep.
They're not going to gain or lose anything. There's no house on the line they have to have. The worst time to do it is you've been shopping, they found the most perfect home. They're going to die if they don't own this home. And then you drop on them. Remember that one thing your parents said you should never, ever do? Buy a house without a home inspection? Well, guess what? That's what this one requires. And we're not at the house anymore. And you only were there 20 minutes, and that's all we were able to have. So I hope that's enough for you to be comfortable buying this house and learning nothing ever again about this home. Horrible time to be giving advice about something because it feels like you're trying to gain something and it's not to their benefit. So when setting expectations, when there's nothing you're getting out of it and there's nothing they're going to gain or lose immediately, you're just sharing information.
Yep.
So I've been a big believer in that, and that's why we must sit in the office. We must do that in advance. I must make sure I'm disseminating certain amounts of information to you. I even tell them there's things you don't know. You've been through this no times. I've been through this more than no times. There's things I know that you don't yet, and I want to make sure you do before we get started.
Yeah.
And early on, it was kind of a challenge to get buyers who are just excited about homes to not be so excited about a particular address online and come into the office and do this first. But I think I've gotten better at that conversation, and most people are thankful and excited to start real estate this way, which is let's sit down and talk about these things.
Yeah.
And that's the grounds you set all the expectations.
And let's be prepared, right? I've also heard from agents, like when it comes to buyers, I don't think you show a lot of homes. It's not like you're showing 20, 30 homes. So what's the conversation sound like to filter that for them so that you are efficient with your time, but also with their time?
Absolutely. I always cite an example for clients of something I didn't do well, and I tell them I didn't do this well so that they know we're not going to do it as poorly as I've done this in the past. And that was when I had a family who every Friday sent me the 8 split entries in Millard that were listed. They just simply said, and here they are, which in their mind meant, so we must go see all of them.
Yep.
And I thought, first time out, there'll be a lot of learning happening. Of course, it's a Friday evening, but I'll give it to them. We'll learn a lot of things. Next Friday, guess what? And here are the next 9 houses that were listed. And I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble. It's very hard to scale a person back when I didn't set expectations. So now I give that example and I say I should have said, of those 8 houses, I bet there's an 8th place house and a 7th and a 6th and a 5th, and no one ever buys those houses. The house you really don't like, you're not going to buy. You might buy the 1st place one and maybe the 2nd, even the 3rd is questionable. So let's not look at the 4th through 8th place house. Maybe let's cut the 3rd out, just drive by it. There's only 2 you might reasonably buy. Let's put all of our energy into those. Well, when there's not 8 houses you're desperate to see and you're sitting in an office, you don't even know 8 houses even exist for sale. They say, boy, that sure makes a lot of sense. You're right. No one buys the last place house that they really, really don't like. But this family just thought if it existed, it means it should be viewed. And I said, no, we should view the ones that exist. And you think, I could buy this if it's as good as I think it is. Not, I probably won't buy it unless it tricks me and maybe it's better than I think. We're not going to do that. So I always say that first conversation, and then we're looking at onesies and twosies, not 8s and 9s and 8s and 9s.
And then, you probably do a good job, and I actually think a lot of realtors do a very good job of filtering and making sure we're listening to find the right home. How do you get them ready to take the necessary steps on the first couple? For your people that are like, well, I don't know if this is the first one we've seen. What if the other ones are better? You're handling all that before you see the first home, I imagine?
I describe to them what we're going to be evaluating in every home. And I say, you can think about the fun stuff for you. It's either dog beds, cat trees, or Christmas trees, or art, where you're going to do your art painting. Those are all important things for you. Let me do all the nerdy stuff. That's the important stuff. Age of things, how long those things last, the cost to replace them, what deficiencies exist. You do the fun stuff. I'll do the important stuff. It'll be very educational, and it won't take very long before you realize, hey, this is a really, really good home, because we saw the last two that had these deficiencies, and this one you didn't. So I think I've never convinced a person to choose a home. I think the home is quality. I just have to identify those things for them. And there's a lot of homes that aren't quality, and you identify those things for them, and they know it's not for me.
Yeah.
So I think most people are, if they're ready, willing, and able, and really sincerely mean to buy a house. And some people don't mean to buy a house. They just mean to look at them. And I think you realize that just through the questions you ask sitting in your office. But if they're really ready, willing, and able, they just need to find one that they like and their realtor can help them be comfortable is a quality home.
Yeah.
So when those two are together, most people say, we got to do this.
Truck and roll.
Yeah.
Yep. And you have that track record that shows you've done this before. I think a couple really great insights there, especially from a coaching perspective, is you're taking failures, you're taking hard moments, and you're saying, hey, I can get ahead of this next time.
Yeah.
Because if it happens with one, it's going to happen with somebody else. And I think too often as an agent, we fall into the trap of like, shoot, it's their fault.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I've seen this before. I'm going to make sure I get ahead of that now.
Right. I mean, even just on that example, physically, I'll tell a buyer, when we look at a home, the first crack we see will be the scariest crack in a foundation you've ever seen, because you've seen none except this one. And I'll say, I give it like a B minus, and you have a hard time maybe understanding that perspective until in the third house you see one that's an F minus, and then you'll say, oh man, you're right. That house was so awesome, but I was scared over this little thumbnail crack that I thought was an F, and it really was probably a B plus. And so as I'm describing the perspective I'm setting for people, I hope that helps them to get in that real life scenario where they're not, just because of their unfamiliarity with a home, they would pass on something they like just out of fear of, well, that seems like a big deal.
Yep.
And I have a good track record of understanding homes, revealing all these things. And so I think that puts a client at ease that they just have a better understanding of the home they might be choosing.
Yeah.
So I'm getting ahead of that up at the beginning and saying, these problems will exist. Not all problems need to be fixed. Not all problems are scary, but they all will be there. And they might not even keep you from buying the home. I just want you to be aware.
Yep. So
that when the problems exist, they understand, oh, they're supposed to exist. These aren't all reasons for me not to buy a particular house.
Yep. And again, like that's the educator in you, which I think is one of your main things in terms of like why your clients want to refer you and want to continue working with you. Right. From a high level, if you're speaking to us as agents, the buyer consult specifically, that's what we've kind of been delving into here. Like, what's your high level buckets at that consultation of things you're making sure to cover? We obviously don't have enough time to go over everything, but high level, what are you covering?
Costs involved. You'd be shocked how many people don't know there are certain costs involved. I mean, that can be an immediate disqualifier, like, oh, I have to save 13 more months. I say, well, that's important. If you don't have the money, it's okay to wait. It hasn't misused our time. Really spending time on what it is you actually want to buy. The tough one is, where do you want to live? Anywhere is pretty good. I kind of live anywhere. Most people won't live between Bennington and Bellevue and Fort Calhoun and Gretna. But when they say, hey, it's all good as long as I really like the house, we will tire ourselves out. There's just too much real estate to consider. So a lot of, well, why is that important? You said this was important, but then you're saying this. And I think most people just need help unpacking some of that. So the more we can eliminate where you don't want to live, it doesn't suit your lifestyle, the better. So that's a big one.
Filtering it down.
Yeah, filtering it down. And then I just want to make sure they understand the process. So when we get to the inspection, it's not a surprise what that outcome's supposed to be. Or, hey, there's multiple offers on homes, and it's like, oh, I never knew that. You should know that. We already talked about it. It means writing our best offer, not the worst offer you can think of writing, because there's already a few in place. So, that's another one. Yep.
A couple hard conversations that people are having now with buyer expectations changing just a little bit with the market. Writing lowball offer. How are we handling that?
Sure.
How does that conversation sound?
Yes, things have slowed. It's funny how fast buyers convince themselves, oh, since it's in day 9, that means the seller is willing to give it all away.
Yes.
But I get it. It's a reaction of the buyer had to give it all away on the house they bought 6 or 5 years ago, right? I mean, so it's just kind of a knee-jerk reaction.
It's what they
If there's
know.
a little inch I can take, I'm going to, extort it for a mile, and the seller's going to give me everything.
Yep.
And I think it's pretty easy to help a buyer understand that what the seller's probably willing to do. It's only been for sale 9 days. A reasonable, sincere seller probably recognizes they're not going to get exactly what they were hoping for, but they'd be really silly to, on day 9, bypass 4 price reductions and take this price in secret. It's a 300 house. It's been 2 weeks. Yeah, they probably won't make 300. I think they realize that. They'd be a real fool, I think. I wouldn't tell my seller to take 250 in secret without trying it for 290 and 280 and 260 and then 250. And so I say to buyer, I mean, if you want this house today, you probably can only buy it within this threshold of what a seller is willing to give up, but they're going to stop at different price points on the way down before we get to your number. So if it's really worth this number, it'll sell for that, but it might take 5 months till we get there.
Yep.
You're not going to get that today. You might get it in 5 months. You want to wait 5 months? No, I don't. Okay. Well, then this is the range in which a seller probably reasonably could sell their home today. I think that I wouldn't pay that. I said, that's fine. They probably don't, they're not going to celebrate an offer less than that. It's okay to leave it be.
Yep.
So I talk them down this kind of stratosphere of pricing, which is true. I wouldn't tell my seller, the best thing you can do is take an offer 4 price reductions lower than this without taking a little time to tell the whole globe, actually, I would take 290 today. Well, let's do that before in secret you take this, So I think once a buyer realizes, oh yeah, the seller's confined by what they think the next best buyer would buy, that limits how much you're going to get out of them today.
Yep.
Now in 3 more weeks, maybe we're dancing down to the next price point, but we're talking for today.
Yeah.
So buyers have really responded well to that.
Good.
Thinking.
And there's obviously situations where there are overpriced, and we know that, and the numbers show that. But for the most part, right, you got to be reasonable.
Right.
Okay, so with the buyer consult, we have obviously intro to you. I imagine like this is what I've done, who I am, and who's helping you a little. Costs, the process, and filtering. Those are the main 3.
Yeah, I'd say.
Main 3.
I'd say so. And I always promise them before we meet, we're going to talk through the process. You're going to leave equipped and educated. So I obviously have to deliver on that promise, which is to talk in detail through the process.
Cool.
It's funny when people are like, so we get the inspector in first, and then what do we do after that? And I'm like, okay, you've been reading lots of things, and no one's told you in order exactly how this is supposed to work. So the education is the minutes spent talking. Lots of it is on them making sure I know that they know what it's going to feel like for the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, you can't quantify how many hours that saved you, I imagine. Just getting
well, it's
really
not
efficient.
the 200 because we're not practicing for 200 hours.
Yeah.
It is very sad when agents say, "Oh, eventually they'll learn."
Yeah.
I think, but
Stuff.
you can learn them. You can teach them by sitting down in the office, and why don't you just tell them how this works?
Yep. That's
been my major calling card. It's by just having the heart of a teacher, coming from being a school teacher. It just makes great sense to let people know all the things they need to know, and then we begin.
Yep. Okay, and on the sale side, the sellers, how's that? I mean, you do have your buy sell, which is complex in the especially in the market we're in right now, becoming a little bit more complex. But for sellers, what are we covering at the console? Obviously pricing, but how's that sound, and what's expectations sound like?
And of course, the specifics to my marketing plan we won't go into because that could take too much time. But fundamentally, a seller needs to make sure that their home is priced right and the condition of their home matches that price. So if there's anything that changes in a given year, it's not how to prepare your home or how I'm going to market your home. It's how well prepared does your home need to be and how well priced your home needs to be. You go back 5 years ago, you could have your home underprepared and overpriced, and you probably still sell it even for more than what you were hoping to get.
Yep.
Right? Underprepared, overpriced. And then we've had times where you have to have it, I'm not going to say underpriced, but the most conservatively priced and the most prepared, because buyers were a lot less buyers, are being a lot pickier. And there's been times in that where the price has to be down the middle and your condition just has to be passable.
Yeah. And
I think that's kind of the skillful dance that realtors that are highly productive, meaning you're doing this every 3.25 days. It doesn't have to be that often, but like on a weekly basis where at least you can track, over this section of this month, buyers are for whatever reason, a little pickier, things are taking longer. The seller who says, do I have to really do that touch-up painting? Well, 5 years ago, no, you don't. You could punch a hole in the wall and it'd still be okay. And in times it's like, yep, this needs a repaint. And other times, the magic eraser that gets that stain off by 50%, let's call that passable, that's enough. And so I think that's kind of like the two big pieces is where in the band of pricing, there's always a range, is the most intelligent. And then in the band of how prepared their home is from under to over to passable, like, where can you do both of those things? And if you underprepare and overprice, I mean, that's the seller who, that's might be 15 grand too high between effort and price. Well, that's the one that's going to sit all October, November, December. And then, of course, now you're fighting 100 days on the market. So I think that's kind of a delicate adjustment, is knowing the market well enough to know, is this a fixed by light price adjustment or a little more effort up front? Of course, it's hard to have your home on the market overpriced for too many days and then say, hey, okay, I'll put in the effort tonight. I'll scrub those spots off a little more. So I'm like, no. You do that at the beginning before we list your home. That's all the preparatory things. So I'm spending most time trying to align their effort with what the reasonable price should be.
Yep. And you get one chance to present it for the first time, right?
You do. And after it's been 100 days, there's no redos.
Yeah.
Even if you do it all right, you get the price just right, you get the condition perfectly now. The one thing you can't erase is 100 days of buyers rejecting your home. Yep. Which is ingrained in history forever.
Yeah. Plain and simple.
You got to do it the right way out of the beginning.
So just really, again, same thing with buyers, is heavy prep early.
Oh, yeah. And setting those expectations.
So the hard conversation there with sellers that's changing, that people it's funny now because I hear things like, I've never had to deal with this before, right? Because a lot of people came in after 2020, and not that it was easy, the challenges were different.
Yes.
Right, so the challenges were a little bit different during that time. It was more getting something under contract versus finding people. And now we're in a more sale and skills-based market where we're having to like build pipeline and understand how to build trust with your clients. Sellers that maybe haven't changed their perspective yet, I'm sure you're handling this in the appointment, but hey, we're 14 days, what the heck's going on? Why is this not sold yet?
Right.
Right.
The dirty little secret I always think is doing the hard work up front. You can make some adjustments with a seller and have those hard conversations. I just think they're way harder on day 30.
Oh, man.
Then again, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. This is called information, and I'm just giving it to you today.
Yep.
I used to play basketball. It's like when a coach would say, I never got to play post position. I was too small. They'd say, do the hard work early, establish your position early, talking about post players. I wish I could have played post. It looked fun, but they never invited me down there. But, it's a good illustration. You do the hard work early, so then what comes after that is a lot easier because you've established your position, and that's setting expectations for a seller. If you always nailed it perfectly at the beginning, there wouldn't be a frustrated day 30 conversation.
Yeah, those are way more emotional.
And take way longer, and there's pain involved, and frustration. It's a lot easier to say, this is what's happening in the market. By the way, these are the 5 split entries that sold between $10,000 in your neighborhood. Yours gets to be like in one of those. Yep. Versus, why is my home not selling? Well, it's your fault. It is your fault my home isn't selling on day 30. Never mind you, we've also priced it $15,000 above the band in which homes are selling in the neighborhood. So again, the hard work done up front, it serves the seller best too. It's always a shame, honestly, when you see the seller 100 days on the market. It eventually sells, but it sells for less than it ever should have. And you think, man, I'm sad that you weren't given enough of a push by a courageous enough realtor who's kind. And said, if you do it that way, this could be the result. If you do it this way, and there's evidence to show this is how it should end, you're going to come out with a better number. It makes me sad for sellers.
Well, as an agent, sometimes you have to learn the hard way. That part is learned through experience, unless you're practicing and you have really good mentors and training teachers in front of you. But sometimes, like as we're going through this, those failures can be worth so much more. Yes, it might have happened. Yes, it's a hard conversation. You have to get through it. But that's something that you can get ahead of every client you ever have moving forward.
That's an incredible point. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got is when I went to my former partner, actually. Of course, I had this huge story about how we got to this big mess, and the seller feels like this, and I did this, and I'm like, I need to fix this today. And her best advice was, you can't. You can't fix this. You will suffer through this and maybe come out with a sale at the end. You may suffer through this and get nothing at all. But the next time you have a seller you're consulting with, you won't do it this way again. Meaning you'll make sure you set these expectations. And I thought it was just brilliant. You can't fix something. You can't set new expectations a month or two in. You just suffer through.
Yep.
And you may get paid for it and you may not, but the next one, don't do it this way again. And I said, you're right. This one's a wash. If I am earned income, great. But I will not put myself in this corner again, which is a overpriced and underprepared seller without expectations of what buyers are going to reasonably offer and repairs to be made. And I was so new. I was early on. I knew nothing.
Yep.
So I can't even blame myself for knowing nothing. I just got myself in a mess, and you can't get out of it once you're in it. So.
Yeah, that's the growth-based mindset, right?
Yeah.
Being an educator. And I think another really, really important thing, especially in the market we're stepping into in 26, is you want it to be you and your clients attacking the market, not you versus each other, with the market being the game, right? And that's the biggest part of being able to articulate and communicate what's happening. So with the market that we're stepping into, what are you kind of seeing early insights? Like I think we talked a little bit ago, it's too early to tell what's going to happen.
Right.
But what are you kind of seeing change in your process with the changes over the past 6 months or so?
Sure. To go back to you and your client against the market, not each other, the agent that spends 200 hours just to get a viable buyer, I think 70 of those 200 hours is spent in disagreement, where the realtor is, convincing, which feels like an argument.
Yep.
I think, how much time are you burning either begging, pleading, forcing, convincing your client to trust you, to say that's not the right thinking? I mean, you could burn a whole day arguing with your client over something that you could have handled
Over so
in
many
the
different
beginning.
things.
And so, yeah, if you're arguing, you're going nowhere. So it's just, we got to keep that in mind. Yes, for this year, I mean, we're on day 12 or 13 of the year.
Yep.
Every year there is a new set of buyers. There's people who last year, this time of year, or within, spring of 2025, signed a lease and said, we're renting one more year, and hey, hon, next year's our year. We're going to buy a house next spring, right? So what happened this last year, they did not participate in, they did not impact it, they had no influence over the market. Most buyers who wanted to buy a house this year with these terms and conditions in the environment, they did. So that's done. And every year, thankfully, you get a reset where there's an entirely new group, or the vast majority of buyers are all new ones who will respond to the market differently with different levels of enthusiasm or frustrations, or they think the interest rates are pretty exciting or they're pretty bumped out. So on day 13, we haven't had enough transactions take place to tell what is this kind of like new group of buyers, how will they feel about the market.
Yep.
I think it maybe takes about 6 weeks. So like now we're getting towards Valentine's Day, where there's some tempo being established where whatever the range of values the home should sell at, is it what you expect? Is it a little more? Is it a little less? How do buyers tolerate the passable condition versus it's got to be perfect versus the you're just trying to hand me off what you didn't prepare?
Yep.
12 days, 13 days is not enough. So, and I'm telling that to sellers who thankfully are not listing their home tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're listing their home in 2 months. And I say, this is data looking back last year. Thankfully, between now and 2 months from now, there'll be new things listed that will kind of redevelop or establish what this pattern of buyers is going to be like. And these are the buyers who will buy your house. We looked at the buyers who were buying last year's houses with last year's behavior. So
yeah.
I think it's okay to tell a seller, this took place. We think this might take place, but the best part is there'll be evidence to pave the way for us while you're preparing your home for the next 2 months, which you have many things to work on. So you work on those. Let me worry about what's happening in the market, and we'll have this conversation again and again. And I think sellers are like, sounds great. You don't need to promise me a value today when there's could be data that positively impacts what my home could sell for. Like, great. I can't wait to have you watch and you tell me what you see.
Yep.
So that's what I'm kind of kicking the can down the road, but in a transparent way. Plus, they're not listing their house today, so
yeah,
I don't need to make these decisions today.
You have a lot more information coming live, right? Like what's actually happening. I think
tons more.
It's interesting. I was pulling market stats last year and this year. We did see a little bit more of a slowdown during the holiday season versus past. Could be any reason, right? But as we've opened up this year, the one thing I heard that I thought was really made sense for the market that we're in is buyers have, in years past, we've had national headlines saying rates are going to drop, rates are going to drop. So they're just hanging on to this. Some point it's going to happen. And I heard something that buyers have now accepted the new norm. These are where rates are at. They're no longer planning or waiting for a huge rate drop because past has shown them it's not going to happen. So they're educating themselves more. Yeah. And now sellers have not quite adapted to, oh, okay, buyers are a little bit more educated. They're taking a little bit more time. They want to do a little bit more research or enter the market earlier before buying. And so now the harder conversations are happening with sellers who are not having the right expectations about what the market looks like and how quickly their home is going to sell. So that's interesting kind of take in terms from an agent perspective of like, okay, let's be prepared for that.
Right.
And so early this year we saw open house activity's been way up. Buyers are entering a little bit earlier to try to do the research before spring, but under contracts have went down. So that just shows you, right? Understand how to qualify at a really high level, and your skilled agents like yourself that know how to qualify and prepare your buyers before entering are going to far exceed other agents that are doing the 200 hours.
Agreed.
That you just talked about, right? So I think we talked a little bit before this about skill and like what do we mean by the word skill? And I think it just comes down to how can we articulate, educate, and help our clients with actually what's happening in the market. So cool. We've covered a lot just in that.
Yeah.
I got through maybe 2 of my questions in total. As far as database and relationships, we're going to cover a lot of that stuff at the panel.
Sure.
I'm just surprised of how you are able to cover so much. You're a basketball player. I didn't know that. I played at Dana College. You're York, right?
Yeah, but I made the team. I did not play for the team. So there's a difference there.
I love it. I learn something new about you all the time. But to be a part of this, like, explain that lifestyle and real estate part with your database. I always, from the last panel, envision you like you're out jogging because you exercise a lot. You take a call at the stoplight. Like, what's this look like?
Yeah, I mean, I have said real estate is a lifestyle, meaning it should start when you wake up and when you go to bed. And for all the hours in between, you better balance your clients' needs and your own, right? If it's all yours, that's no good for business. If it's all business, it's no good for you. Thankfully, they can be intertwined. And I'm doubly thankful that the activities, at least that I'm doing, that help grow my business, which is staying connected with my database, fit perfectly in that formula, which is their needs, my needs, their needs, my needs, and this hour's for me with a little of them, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, agents have said, oh, that all sounds real cool, Ben, but like in practicality, like what do you actually do? What are you doing? That you mean, like, what do you mean staying in touch and you're trying to endear yourself to clients, and how does that fit in? And so just in a very practical way. And so we haven't had this yet, but for agents who will hear this, and we have cold weather coming, after the polar vortex we are going to have, which it happens every year, you should the next day text every client you've had who bought a house since the last time we had a polar vortex, which is usually March all the way to this next bad week of weather that we're going to have, and just say, really cold weather does strange and freaky things to houses. Sometimes you just kind of never know what the weather's going to do. How did your house fare? Did you have any problems? And almost everyone says, oh, wow, thanks for checking in. That's so kind of you. You know what? I had this frost in the window, and what's that about? Well, your humidity's too high, and you educate them on that, and they're like, oh, good, I thought my kids' windows were leaking. No, it's not. Turn down your humidity. It's a really good conversation, and that is that just fits in. If I do 2 now, and then I'm busy, and then I hit 3 more, and then I'm on a jog, and the stoplight, those are 1 or 2 minute little pieces that move you closer to your clients and them to you. You can do the same when it's really hot. You can do the same thing at the turn of the year and say, Happy New Year. At the beginning of the year, a lot of people start planning different projects they might do. Are you planning anything? And is there anyone I can recommend you?
Yep.
So that's just kind of a microcosm for every day. I'm taking the available minutes and saying, what can I do in this minute and that minute that fits with all the other good stuff in life to make sure I'm moving myself into a better relationship with some past client.
Awesome.
And that, when you start to have fun, when you think about, well, how else can you do that? Is there better ways to do it? Celebrating pets and babies and, Popeye. We'll maybe talk about more of that at the panel. But fundamentally, it's what can you do each day that brings you closer to a client in a way that is meaningful, sincere, not too silly, provide some value. And I just found a good rhythm, authentic, genuine communications that fit perfectly in the rest of life.
Yeah. And I feel like you probably have done a good job, or it looks as that way anyway, that you've set expectations family-wise too. This is what we do. It's part of your life. This is kind of who you are and what you do.
I hope I've achieved some balancing. I don't like to say balance. That means you've sort of perfected it, work-life balance. I think that's a tough description. How about balancing, meaning it's always changing work and life. That's why I give you the 101 minutes of exercise and 47 days out of the state.
Yep.
Those are just tangible, piece of data that say, okay, your life wasn't only related to real estate.
Yep.
Now, I've used 101 some of those minutes to text a client at a red light, but I was going to breathe anyways, and can't cross the street till the light changes. So
Yeah.
what else could I do?
Yep.
Stare at traffic, or say, oh, I didn't text them about the heat wave and what their house did. So
Yep.
let me make sure I hit them.
Love it.
So.
Cool. Final question here as we
Okay.
kind of get wrapped up. Advice you give to agents that for them to hit their goals this year in 2026, just one or two pieces of things that they could do this year to get better.
Sure. I think if I was giving myself advice as a new realtor or realtor not doing as much as I wanted, concepts don't help. It's those tangible activities. And that's maybe why I jumped the gun on the question. What can you do today that makes a connection, reestablishes a connection with a past client? Because that's real estate is moving people closer to you, endearing them more to you. You can't control when they have real estate needs. You can't control promotions, losing a job, a family member passes, a family splits up. We don't get to pick any of those things. I don't want to pick those things for people.
Yep.
All I can control is when those things happen and those things trigger a real estate need, who's the only person they'll think of, someone who is good at what they do, they can trust, cares about them. And I'm demonstrating that could continue to be me by making sure I'm staying in contact. To check in with your house in the cold weather means I understand what homes do in the cold weather. I haven't forgotten you. I care about you. I'm consistent. You've heard from me before. And so what can you do today, or what things can you do on a monthly basis that move the needle a little bit closer to the clients, know you care about them even more.
So good.
And it's wonderful. It just fits in between the real estate activities, called showings, called contracts, called negotiations. I mean, those have to take place. But it's all the extra time you could do nothing with, or you could move yourself incrementally closer to dozens and then hundreds of clients. I couldn't sell 119 homes on my own. I need all my past clients to help say, you got to work with a person like Ben who cares about you. Then I don't have to spend time chasing and digging for 119 people.
Yep.
I can just serve 119 people.
So awesome.
And I'm thankful it works that way, because year one, when no one knows you're good at what you do, that you care about them or you're trustworthy, you're just chasing things and last names on paper that you found somewhere, and it's just highly, highly discouraging.
So good. I mean, you let your authenticity in your work do the talking for you.
Yeah.
And you guys, what you're hearing is exactly who you are. So every time I've talked with you, this is the same exact demeanor and intelligence and intention that you speak with. And I'm grateful that you spent time with us today.
Absolutely.
I know you're
Wonderful.
very intentional with your time, so I appreciate that. And then we hope to see you at our Agent Advantage panel, which when this comes out will be tomorrow at Hurrdat Sports in La Vista. And thank you for joining us this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Awesome. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.